Attention, due to the nature of the films discussed, the Civil Gore podcast may contain adult language and themes.
Tim, wake up!
What? Huh?
Wake up!
Wait, where are we? What are you doing here?
We're in the same dream, like in the movies.
Be ridiculous. You probably just fell asleep to part 6 again.
No, this is real! Look over there! Creepy girls playing jump rope.
1, 2, Freddy, come
Oh, you're right. And it's slow motion jump rope. That's the easiest kind. Hey, can you guys do double dutch?
Cut that out. Come on, let's try and find a way out of here. Maybe the exit's inside that old house. Hello? Mr. Krueger?
Wow, the entire inside of his house is a boiler room. It must be 100 degrees in here.
He must be cold-natured. He does always wear a sweater an awful lot.
Good point.
Mr. Krueger? Frederick? Fred? Freddy?
In the flesh!
Ah! Please don't kill us, Mr. Krueger. We haven't even covered The Exorcist yet, or Poltergeist, or Evil Dead, or...
If you want to kill anybody, kill Tim. He said you were his least favorite modern horror icon.
You're taking my words out of context.
You said him, Jason fanboy.
Shut up, you two. I don't want to kill you. I want to hire you.
Hire us?
Absolutely. Tim's dulcet tones and your incessant rambling have been putting people to sleep all over the country. My business has never been better.
Thanks?
We'll put Civil Gore into syndication all over the globe. You get the money and fame. I get all the souls I can reap. It's a win-win.
Sounds fantastic. Where do we sign?
Welcome to prime time, bitches.
Good evening. Is everybody here?
The teacher returns.
Had to give him a shout out. So, hey everybody, welcome to Civil Gore. Civil Gore. I'm leaving that in there. Civil Gore.
Yeah,
episode 21. Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, we should leave some of the flubs in because they're quite funny.
Yeah. We laugh more about the flubs than our own bad jokes.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
So you guys should get. That's a treat. You guys got the flub.
So we're continuing our Summer Slaycation series with another heavy horror hitter, Mr. Freddy Krueger.
Who's that?
Yeah. If you haven't heard of Freddy Krueger, turn this podcast off, delete it, unsubscribe.
And it's not that Five Nights from Freddy character, whatever that thing is. No, this is the real Freddy.
No, and I played that one time before, and it scared the crap out of me.
Did you? I don't know what that is. I always see it all over the place, but I've not actually tried it, so I have no idea what it is.
So what you're a security guard in a Chuck E. Cheese, basically, and unbeknownst to you, the characters actually come to life at night. So you're trapped in this room. At least it's the first one. I never played any of the other ones. You're trapped in this room, and all you have are security cameras to look around, and you see these things slowly approaching.
Oh, it's kind of like Night Trap.
Kind of, yeah. It is kind of like Night Trap, but it's like a demonic Chuck E. Cheese version.
See, you I think sold me on it. Out of the millions of times I've seen things for it, I had no clue what it is. You sold it to me in 5 seconds. Flat.
Yeah, it's pretty scary. It's a hit with the kiddos.
And it's on like all the iOS things, right? Basically.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah.
I think I might be downloading this now tonight.
Yep.
Cool. Well, see, there you go. Look at that. See, Tim and I always share these new things and experiences, and look at that. Now I know what this thing is, and now I'm gonna get it, and
get scared.
Like I need something else to distract me from my Blu-rays, right?
Yeah. Tonight we're actually gonna do another 2-parter. So part 1 will be this episode where we'll go over Nightmare on Elm Street, the original.
Yes.
And then next week, we'll be doing, just like we did with the Jason series, we'll be doing a full run-through of the entire Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. And this is how dedicated we are. Me and Brian sat down and watched all of the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, even the crappy remake.
Yes.
Just so we could talk about it on the show for you guys.
Yes, and it's not like we haven't seen them before, but, we wanted to go in really, with them freshly on our minds, because there's a couple there I hadn't seen in a while, and so we literally crammed them in over the weekend, and so my poor Julie, I mean, she literally I basically took over the main TV on Sunday. I think I watched, pretty much, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 that night. So that day, and so then I pretty much had that, and then yesterday I ended up finishing with the New Nightmare and, of course, the much maligned remake.
Yeah, and I paid $3 to rent freaking Part 6, which is $3 I'll never get back.
Oh, that's right, because you returned your DVD set, right?
Yeah. No, I couldn't find it.
Oh, you couldn't find it? Okay.
I could not find, and I know I did not give it. I may have given it to Kevin. I don't know. But I cannot find my DVD box set of all the Nightmare films. So I had to just scrimp and scrounge. And I mean, I know New Nightmare and the original were on Netflix, so I watched those there. And I just had to beg, borrow, and steal to rent these things from here and there. So yeah, I'm out a lot of money just for your guys' Civil Gore entertainment.
There you go. How dedicated. Yeah,
that's dedication.
Yeah, and I actually watched used 2 different box sets. Actually, I watched most of them on the Blu-ray box set, but for some reason they did not include the 3D ending to Part 6, which is probably about the only thing that's worth watching in that. That's a loose. Worth it when I say that.
Yeah.
But so I popped open my old box set that did come with the 3D glasses and the 3D ending. So I watched that one on there. And actually, it's funny. I don't think either of the sets I had the remake in it. So the remake I had separately. So I had about 3 boxes of DVDs out in the room, in the main room there with my TV. So not to make bad enough. I messed up the house with all my stuff out there. I and took over the TV. So, but it was all for you guys out there.
Yeah, and I will have to say I had a blast going through the series again. It's been a while since I've seen some of the kind of middle entries. So it was. I had a ton of fun.
Oh yeah, no, it was fun. Yeah, no, I mean, we say it was arduous, but it was fun. It was a fun thing, because especially when when you haven't seen a series, or you've seen, I used to watch it so often that to the point where I was as soon as I put them on, I kind of remembered what was coming, but it was still fun to see after many years of watch. I don't think I've seen, like you said, 2. I can't even tell you when the last time I saw 2, and then 3, I'd probably seen the most out of the whole series, not counting the original, because 3 was just so, that was the one that I think really turned the tide for the whole series at some point, because it added all the nuances to the different things, which we'll get into when we go through that. But yeah, so I remember getting excited when I was watching 3 again, because I used to watch it to death, and I hadn't seen it in years, so that was kind of fun. And 4 and 5, and then of course 6 had to ruin it a little bit, but then we got back on track with New Nightmare, and so. But like we said, we'll get to all that in Part 2. Tonight we're gonna probably we're just gonna try and focus on the original.
Yep. But before we get into that, it's our first chop.
Yes.
Okay, so for the top of the first chop, I had Richard Laymon. Do you know who Richard Laymon is, Brian?
I don't, but tell it to me in layman's terms. Sorry.
Okay, I will be doing the rest of the episode by myself.
Yes, I am signing out. See you next week. I've been punished.
So, Richard Laymon, he's deceased now, unfortunately, but he's a horror author. And I had this weird feeling the other day. I've been reading a lot of books, and I actually read way more non-horror than I do horror. I read a lot of nonfiction. I read a lot of history. I read a lot of fantasy. I don't read a lot of horror, and that used to be all I did read back in high school and early years of college. That's almost read that almost exclusively. And, at some point, aside from your big names like Stephen King and some others, a lot of the horror genre is in literature is just like the horror genre of movies. You have some really bad writers out there, right? And you have some really just throwaway novels. And so I kind of outgrew that to some extent. And I realized that I've been reading the horror that I have been reading has been Stephen King stuff, and then stuff like The Fisherman, which I covered a few weeks ago.
Oh, right. I got to get that book.
That's very, very highly acclaimed stuff, right? And I was sitting there reading on my Kindle one night, and I just had this flash of like, I miss the days when I would pick up some random horror novel that's obviously just a one-trick, gimmicky, trashy novel and read it. Like, I kind of miss that, right? And I remember like one of the authors I used to read a lot back in the day was Richard Laymon, because that's what he wrote. And I don't want to disparage his writing, because his books are really enjoyable, but they literally are. They're like just trashy horror novels. Like, they just got sex and violence and...
So it's like the Daniel Steele of horror or whatever. Is that the one I'm thinking of?
Yeah, that's a good analogy. Like, it's just... And a lot of it's like uncomfortably bad. You know what I mean? Like, not like bad writing, but just like bad people doing bad things to each other.
Hey.
And I got to thinking, I was like, yeah, I kind of want to read a Richard Laymon novel. I need some trashy pulp horror paperbacks in my life. So I tracked down his first paperback, which is called The Cellar, and it's part of a series he did called The Beast House, and I've been just totally enjoying it. It's every bit as trashy and low grade as I remember.
Now, did you get the physical book, or you had it on Kindle?
I found it on Kindle. Oh. If I had found I don't even know where to go to look for physical books anymore. I'm not going to pay the prices they charge for a paperback nowadays at actual books.
You know what? You probably could have looked at the Strand. I bet they might have had it, something like that, because they had some old, like, crazy sections.
Yeah, and I think we do have some used bookstores here in town. I need to go check out at some point. But man, I remember I used to have just shelves and shelves of those old trashy novels, and I really regret having given them away, because I would love to go back and look at some of those now. I mean, it's fine reading them on the Kindle, but it's definitely not the same, because they had just the greatest covers, the greatest artwork on them.
Yeah, well, at Chiller, every year they have they have a lot of like booths with DVDs and stuff. But I remember there was one guy there that had a ton of old horror books that I really didn't give too much time to. And now that you were saying that, I should have probably looked, because I might have found some stuff for you there. But I guess next time next Chiller comes around, I'll have to look for this guy again and try and see what he's got there.
Yeah, and I think that stuff is really making a comeback among collectors and stuff, because especially the horror movie novelizations are going for crazy amounts of money on eBay.
Oh my god, I know. It's like the Friday the 13th ones are the ones I'm dying for, and just to see the and I think I remember, as this is the worst, is I at some point had one of the Halloween ones, and I don't know what happened to it. I don't know if I had it from a library. Maybe that's the only thing I could think of, because I know that's something that I would not have like given away. Maybe I lost it, but I know I had it, and I remember reading that, and how I remember how it referred to him as like the shape and all that stuff. And I remember, and it was like I remember I loved reading it, and it's like bothering me now that I can't find it, because I think they made I want to say they had 2 Halloween novels, at least the first 2 movies they had novels for. Could be wrong, but I have to check into that. But yeah, and those Friday the 13th ones I'm dying for, but I'm not spending $150 a pop on them.
If you think about it, those paperbacks aren't coming back into print. Some of those older ones, like from the 80s and stuff, they're never going to come back into print.
There's definitely not enough market for it.
There's no demand. Yeah, there's no demand for a physical copy of that. So it's no wonder they're going for crazy prices now.
Right. I think the oddest one is that there's actually a novel for part 3. Just can't imagine.
Yeah.
And I think there's part 6 was, I think, the last one they did. They kind of skipped 4 and 5, and I know part 6 had a novelization, but
we did mention, and this has been one of our early episodes, I mentioned about YouTube has amateur audiobook readings of a lot of these horror novels.
Oh, that's right.
A lot of these movie novelizations. Now, like I said, they're amateur. They're not like professional audiobook people by any means, so take the good with the bad. But if you just want to hear some of these, there are a ton of them out there on YouTube.
Maybe one day if we get big enough, we'll do a Kickstarter, one of our Kickstarters, but it'll be Tim and I reading these things to you.
Oh, yeah, and my dulcet tones.
Yeah, Tim's dulcet tones will definitely be better than my my whatever the heck you can call my tones. I don't undulcet, I don't know. Dedulcified, well, I don't know.
Well, I watched a movie that we talked about recently because I think it was hitting Blu-ray or something called Beyond the Darkness.
Yes, yeah, we had a whole thing about it because we spawned off into the whole like found footage way to do things like different, to do something different.
Well, this one was the one where, if this one was from 1979, this was the one where he replaced his dead wife's eyes with a doll's eyes.
Oh, that's right. Oh, so this wasn't really found footage, but I remember I went to it because I said it was in that VHS, like the sequel to VHS had that like kind of a little short story in it.
So what I did not realize when I was watching this was it's very Italian. And by very Italian, I mean it's got all the hallmarks of those 70s Italian movies with just heavy gore.
That have Peter Bark?
Heavy. No, but I'm getting to that.
Okay.
I'm getting there.
Oh boy.
Tons of nudity. It's like borderline uncomfortable to watch in places. So basically what
Wait, now you say in places like in the public library or in places just in the part of the movie?
Just in general. Like I was a little uncomfortable watching some of it in the privacy of my office.
Oh wow. Okay, yeah, that's bad. Yeah, it makes me want to see it now.
Yeah, you got.
I want to see what makes Tim uncomfortable in the privacy of his own
you'll
office.
find out.
Okay.
It's on Shudder, and so this guy loses his wife, and I never was real clear why she died because she's very young when she dies. She's in the hospital, and she literally dies in his arms as he's kissing her, as she wakes up from her coma.
That's interesting.
So, I'm not making any of this up. So he practices taxidermy of some sort, and he's figured out some kind of chemical that keeps injecting into this baboon's ass. And so he takes this. Me and Olivia had come in and was watching this thing. God bless her.
Oh wow!
And she was calling it baboon juice. So he starts injecting his wife with the baboon juice, which I'm guessing was like to preserve her somehow or anyway. But then he kind of goes off the rails crazy. So he's got this weird housekeeper that acts kind of like a mother to him, but she's not that much older than he is. And she comes in and she's like, "That's my boy." And it's really badly dubbed. Oh. Really, really badly dubbed. And so she comes in, she's like, "That's my boy." And she unbuttons her shirt and she starts breastfeeding him.
What?
Just like the Peter Bark thing. I'm like, what is their obsession with breastfeeding grown men?
Yeah, why is that like a staple of those horror?
That's 2 Italian movies in a row I've watched where the woman was breastfeeding a grown man.
See, now your movies are going to get typecast as that. I get the ones with the strange things happening in the vaginal area, and you're going to get like full men getting breastfed.
I don't know what it is, but anyway, he kind of goes crazy and starts killing women, and she starts helping him.
Wait, the maid,
the housekeeper lady.
Okay.
Yeah, the housekeeping lady. And it's just this whole movie of him basically killing these women for their parts that he can put inside of his wife. And one of the things that really disturbed me about this movie is it's very gory to better or for worse effects. Some of them are quite good. Some of them are quite bad. But it's just the excruciating detail with which they draw every scene out. Like there was a scene where he's pulling this woman's fingernails out.
Ugh.
And I think they showed him pulling out all 10 fingernails. Like they didn't just like show him pulling one out and then you kind of infer the rest.
Yeah, I'm thinking the editor maybe he got uncomfortable watching it, so he left midway through the film.
Yeah, it was just like, it just shows everything. And there's just like one scene where she's chopping up a body that was like super, super disturbing. And you have to see this thing.
I
like,
have to. I don't want to, but I have to.
Yeah, I was entranced. Like I have not laughed that hard, which I always say I have not laughed that hard. Where I see, I have not laughed that hard since I'd seen somebody chop a body up like that. But I sound like a weirdo. But I was just laughing at the absurdity and extremity of it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah, well, because when it's so over the top like that, maybe that's their thing. Maybe that's what they always go for. Because Burial Ground, obviously, the Peter Bark and had that kind of element to it. It was so over the top, strange at some points that you probably got like it would in illicit laughter. So maybe that's what it was.
Yeah, like it made me so uncomfortable. I was laughing hysterically. Like maybe I don't know, but. Yeah, Beyond the Darkness, 1979 on Shudder. Check that one out. That one is a weird trip.
Now, was the Italian rapper in that one?
No Italian rapist.
Okay, no rapist yet. Okay.
Well, I don't know. He could kind of be. Yeah. He might be considered a rapist.
Oh, okay. We'll have to. Yeah, we'll have to. I'll judge. I'll see how much I can get through, and I'll let you know. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is I know I've mentioned this. Place a bunch of times, that Retro Picture Show. They were always doing those really cool horror events and stuff. And like this week we have the Sleepaway Camp triple feature, which unfortunately I don't think I'm going to be able to get to. But the next thing they announced is something that I already put on the calendar, because this I may have to whatever I have to do. Since this is only one film, it probably is much easier to take on no matter what I have going on the rest of the weekend. They announced on September 29th that they're going to show Halloween 6, the producer's cut, on 35mm. Now, I want to say I'm not an expert. I know some of the differences with that film, and this was the way it was supposedly originally supposed to be shown.
It is much better.
Right, yeah. No, I've seen it on, because it came in that great box set. So I've seen it. I just don't remember offhand some of the different... the extra things. I knew something though. It's something with Loomis. It ends with him, right?
It just makes a lot more sense. Like they added some scenes back to make the story make a lot more sense.
I think Jamie survives longer too, right?
Yeah, I can't remember every change because it's been a while since I've watched it. But I watched the box set and I watched the original and the producers and the commentaries for them all.
Right.
And as I can't remember an exhaustive list of all the changes, but I do remember it made the story way they added some gore scenes back and stuff, but it made the story just that much better,
right?
More understandable,
right? And I remember knowing about this and dying for this to see somehow, and you could always get it apparently at those conventions, like the bootleg copies. So when they said they were including it on the box set, I was so excited. So when we hit our Michael Myers episodes, when we do him, we'll have to make sure that we'll obviously watch both those, and we'll do a much better comparison side by side on that. But yeah, and they're actually showing this in 35mm, which I did not think existed a cut of this on 35mm, because obviously they, like, from what I heard, is they had to literally piece it together properly to get it on for the DVD. So this must be a really, really rare print of this. So this is something that I gotta find a way to go see regardless of what I got going on. So, and to see that on the big screen is just cool anyway. It's any kind of Halloween movie on there, but to see that one specifically, which has never been probably shown on a screen, I've got to find a way to get to that. So obviously if I go to that, I will be reporting heavily on what's going on with that. And next thing I want to touch on is a really cool shirt I ordered from Fright Rags. I don't know if, this movie itself is not a horror movie, but the movie Summer School, an 80s film with Mark Harmon. They obviously had Chainsaw and Dave, which were two horror-obsessed students that they had they were pretty much obsessed with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, hence the name Chainsaw. It's one of them. And so they, at one scene, they did that whole elaborate staging to get the substitute away, where they had everyone murdered, and then they came running out with like a chainsaw and everything, and they said, "We're psychopaths." Well, some guy actually took that and made it into a shirt, which I had to have because I love that movie, and I think it's just kind of a cool shirt. So I ordered that, and And so I ordered from a company called Fright Rags, which I'll put the link to them on. We'll put that on the show notes and stuff. Which is a really cool site. They have amazing shirts. Tim said he never ordered anything, but he definitely saw the site and he said how many cool things they were. And let me tell you, I ordered this shirt, and within I think like an hour, I got a message saying that it's already shipped. So I got it like 3 days after I ordered this. So it was amazing. And they sent what was cool is they sent a little thing in there, and it was a little black bag. And it said free prize inside. So I opened it up, and it had, for some reason, a candy, one of those Warheads, extreme sour watermelon in there. I guess that's a nice treat. I don't know. It kind of harkens back to the day of bubblegum and baseball cards, I guess. I don't know. And they sent me 2 cool little things, which is like, I guess they have their own series of Fright Film Facts cards, which kind of look like a little baseball cards, but of horror. And the one that I have is funny. It's Night of the Living Dead one, where it just shows a picture of a zombie on it, and it says, the actress who played Helen Cooper, Marilyn Eastman, also doubled as a bug-eating zombie. And this is Night of the Living Dead, 1968. So this is number 1 in a series of 10, so it'd be kind of cool. It's their first series they're doing. So it makes me want to kind of order more shirts from them and see if I can get the whole set, because as anyone knows, I'm an obsessive collector, so if I get one, now I want the other 9. And they also sent me a really cool sticker of like the artwork that looks like kind of like the 30th anniversary artwork for the Monster Squad, that movie. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so
yeah,
that's one of my favorite movies. So, and it's cool, and it just has a little sticker, and it says "Kick-Ass Horror Shirts, Fright Rags." So yeah, so I highly suggest everyone takes a look at their site, because I'm guaranteed there's a shirt you'll want to get on there, and then you get a nice little like bonus little prize there, and they ship really fast. Their prices are not. I mean, this one, I don't know. Actually, in all honesty, this was $27, but this was like a specialized shirt, I think. It was like a limited edition design. Like, they actually had the release date for it, so I set a little reminder to make sure I got it. I believe they still have them right now, but so I don't know if this is their average price of $27, but, you know, and then I think with shipping and tax, it came to like $31, so it wasn't cheap, but I definitely would support this company again and order a shirt from there, just because the quality and their great customer service of shipping that thing really fast and then throwing in like a little bonus thing to it. So that's kind of cool. So yeah, guys, check out Fright Rags. I think it's like www.fright-rags.com. But like I said, we'll put the exact website on the show notes for you.
Okay, so we have a pack disc member mint this week. Though some of these may be re-releases. In fact, I know some of them are.
Yeah, because one of them I'm sitting there looking at right now on my shelf.
Yeah, so... And that's true for any week. We're basically just running through what we know is coming out that week. And there's obviously going to be some times where they re-release one with new box art or, whatever reasons they give for re-releasing Blu-rays. Yeah, new extras, that kind of stuff. So whenever we say a title's coming out, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the first time that's ever been on Blu-ray. So take that for what it is. This week we have, starting us off, The Devil Inside 2012. And I vaguely remember seeing this one. It was another one of those rash of demon possession movies.
It's got the creepy box art, I remember. I'm looking at
with the hand coming out of the mouth or something.
Yeah, I'm actually pulled it up. No, it's the one I have. Oh, see, this is funny. When I bought it, it was a Best Buy exclusive at the time. But it's still old, so I'm sure it was not a exclusive this whole time. But at the time I got it, it was exclusive, and they have this like crazy nun with like a red, it's like a reddish colored habit, I guess, on there. But I think that, it's supposed to be the normal color. It's just they did a red tint on it to make it cool. And she has these really creepy, gray, demonic-looking eyes. It says with the tagline, "This is the film the Vatican doesn't want you to see."
Yeah, I remember it being really bad. And it looks like, I was just pulled up the Metascore was an 18. The IMDb score is a 4.2. So, yeah, doesn't seem to be a very good one.
No. But I just realized I have a digital copy that I never cashed in on this. It's probably expired now. So I have to take a look. I have to check that out after, make sure I can get it.
The next one on the list is one that I actually wanted to see when it came out, and I don't think I ever saw it. That was Case 39 with Renee Zellweger. And that's about she plays a social worker that's trying to save a girl
with a heart of gold.
Oh no,
parents. Sorry.
Yeah. But then something happens, and I don't know what that is because I never saw the movie. So something supernatural or horror-y happens. to Miss Zoe.
I don't think I heard of that. I mean, I know she did, of course, her most legendary horror movie was Texas Chainsaw.
Bridget Jones style.
Yeah, oh, yeah. True.
I thought you were going to say Bridget Jones.
I stepped over your good joke. Damn it.
Yeah,
See, that's
right.
twice I messed up tonight already. Yeah, no, she did, of course, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Next Generation, which we will cover when we do our Leatherface episodes.
Oh, spoiler alert.
Uh-oh, sorry.
That's all right. That's fine.
I think people can figure where we're going here. See, we went to Jason, we went to Freddy. There's a couple of other ones I'm sure that if we didn't do, we'd be crucified for. So,
yeah. Up next after that is Sweeney Todd, the Demon Barber of Fleet Street, the Johnny Depp Tim Burton version.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be allowed to purchase that because Julie, being a big fan of Sweeney Todd, was upset with that movie. I think I own it on DVD, but so I don't know if I'll be able to. I'll upgrade that because she was very disappointed because she saw some good versions of it, and then of course, as I talked about in the episode, we saw a really great recent live version of it. As well, and so it's so I guess fans of Sweeney Todd, and I love Tim Burton, I love Johnny Depp, the whole cast. I mean, I loved it. I just think apparently the movie missed a lot of moments that were in the play that a lot of people like. So
yeah, and that's the only version I've ever seen. So
okay.
I don't have much to compare to.
Well, at the time, yeah, that was when I first saw it, I thought it was good because I didn't know what was taken out, but yeah, after seeing the play, I say if that play comes around, I'm telling you gotta go see that. I would have loved if somehow I found a way for you to have seen it when you were in New York, but I mean, I think it'll play for still a little while. So and since you like New York, you may be back. You never know.
Oh yeah, I'll be back.
So
up next we have The Ruins from 2008. Man, now I read this book when it came out, and it was phenomenal. I loved it. Do you remember this movie, Brian?
Yeah, I actually liked the movie. I remember I bought it when I was, like I was going to say when my DVD buying phase was in full effect, like it ever stopped, right? But that was back before Blu-rays. I remember I bought that. I'd never seen it before, but it just looked kind of cool, so I bought it, and I actually kind of liked it.
Yeah, the movie adaptation I was actually pretty pleased with because it was a fairly good adaptation of the book, although the book is actually obviously better. As it is in most cases.
Yeah, see, I didn't know it was a book. At the time, I just saw the movie and I was like, okay, it's got a cast. I know some people in it. Looks cool.
Yeah, it was one of those books that was, every now and again you get this horror book or any kind of book really, that has this kind of buzz around it. And this one, I think Stephen King was lavishing praise on it at the time. And so I picked it up. I actually picked it up in hardcover of all things.
Wow. Dating
back
yourself.
in the day. Yeah, so... But man, I just loved that book, and when the movie came out, I was really excited to see it. And I wasn't disappointed. It was a pretty faithful adaptation of the book, which was nice to see.
Yeah, I think the movie had a couple of alternate endings on it, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I really need to watch the movie again because I don't think I've seen it since it came out in theaters. But that'd be one to revisit. I'd actually like to read the book again because it was that good.
Yeah, we'll have to put that on the schedule now. To the maybe for the fall.
Yep. The next one up is 1975, The Intruder. And it sounds like 11 visitors are hunting for gold on a remote island, but an unstoppable evil follows them.
As it always does.
As it always does.
Yeah.
And it will not stop until it kills them all.
Now and I'm reading the rest of your summary. It almost seems like it's some kind of cool, like, discotheque. The bodies don't stop dropping,
Yeah, and I'm pulling all these off IMDb, and I'm kind of trying to paraphrase because I don't want to like word for word copy. But some of these I don't know what they're about, so I'm kind of just trying to gather from that. But I do love the wording on IMDb sometimes. The people that come up with these are just correct.
Yeah, like I think you can contribute, right? It's kind of like there's a little bit of Wikipedia in it, right? Where as long as you're a member, I guess you can add and. Yeah,
I think these are just regular members and users like some are writing these and then they just get approved.
I think we should maybe make a Civil Gore account and do our own and like sneak them in there, see if they see if anyone will notice.
The next one up is called House on Willow Street from last year. And this is one of those victim turns the tables kind of thing where a young woman's kidnapped and then her captors soon realize that they're the ones in danger.
I'm glad they did that because that hasn't been done enough.
Yeah.
Only in
I saw this, I was
75
like,
films, you know.
Yeah, I was like, I've seen this movie 50 times.
It's like the what's the I Spit on Your Grave series.
Yeah,
Stuff like that.
I mean, it may be good. I don't want to.
Oh yeah, no, it could be great. It's kind of fun.
funny.
Like, you know, I mean, it's hard now to come up with something original anymore. There's always going to be something you can compare it to. It's just.
It seems like every week we cover one where a family is moving into a new house.
Yeah, right. You figure why? Yeah, with all these horrible things that happen, why does anyone move? You know?
Yeah. And then we have a trilogy of steelbooks that are coming out that are all John Carpenter films that are pretty cool. There's one for They Live, one for The Fog, and one for Escape from New York.
And didn't we just purchase The Fog recently, you and I?
Yeah.
We had a deal,
purchased
right?
the Scream Factory Collector's Edition.
Yeah. I don't think I'm going to double dip on
and
that.
I'm going to be honest, Brian. I don't really care about steelbooks. I've got the Star Wars movies in steelbook because those were cool, and I felt that those were iconic enough to have them in that format. But otherwise, honestly, the steelbook doesn't do anything for me because it doesn't match the other cases on the shelf, and so I end up usually having to segregate them away from the rest of the collection. And I'm like, I just don't really care.
Yeah, I mean, I'll get basically I don't go out of my way to get them because I know Best Buy has their exclusive ones all the time. If it's there and it's you know, there's one left, I may just grab it just because. But, you know, so, like you said, though, it kind of like my OCD starts kicking in as I see like normal DVDs and then all of a sudden this steelbook that sticks out in there. It's bad enough when I'm like a sucker for those things. Like I have that giant Big Lebowski set that's shaped like a bowling ball. Where the heck do I put that? I had to put it on like a separate shelf. It's not even in my shelf. And then I have the Watchmen, that movie. I have the one where it's like Mr. Manhattan's like plastic head shaped, and that thing talk about sticking out of my collection. That's really like out there. And I don't know if you saw, I have the Lion King set from Disney where it's like in it's literally in like a thing that looks like a drum. And so it's like this round thing. And what's great is, you know, yeah, they look neat, but when you try and put them on your shelf and then you add movies to your collection and you have to move them, it gets to that point where then you can't fit that. There's room for like 2 movies left, and then you have this big box set that doesn't fit, so you have to kind of leave a dead space there and move to the next shelf, and that irks me. And so
I mean, these are cool. Don't get me wrong; these are cool. The artwork's really neat on them, but I'm not springing for these.
Yeah. Although I have to say, the one thing I don't regret getting, and you know, obviously I showed it to you, which was cool. That big Harry Potter set I got, that was amazing. But the thing is, if only I had waited, I jumped on that because it was the limited edition number, and then like I remember, like not even a year later, they still had them and they were half price, and I'm just like kicking myself. Yeah. But I'm still not upset I bought it because I love the set, and I would have been more upset if I had missed it. So I figure,
that's true. And he had no way of knowing.
Yeah, because usually those number and it's Harry Potter. I mean, talk about obsessive fans for a thing. Yeah, obviously we know there's a million Harry Potter fans that'll buy anything. So in my head, I'm like, if I don't pre-order this, it's gonna be gone. And so I pre-ordered it, got it, and spent the full amount on it. And this to see it Amazon clearancing it a year later, but. Okay. Oh, well.
Up next is Shin Godzilla 2016. And, you know, we don't really think about the fact that there's still Godzilla movies being made overseas. You know, just because we don't have a remake on the horizon doesn't mean they're not continuing to churn out Godzilla movies.
Right. Well, we do have the sequel coming. We do have that coming.
We do. Yeah, we do have that coming.
And we know that it's a series of things that are coming, so.
Yeah, this is an actual Japanese Godzilla movie that came out last year. So I'd really like to see this one. It looks pretty cool.
It's like James Bond over there, isn't it? They just keep releasing them.
Yeah. But, I mean, it's got decent reviews on IMDb, so it might be one to check out.
Well, I'm someone that, like, I used to live for those Godzilla movies, and I know around my area, I remember they used to have on Channel 11, a couple times a year, they would have Godzilla Week, where after school when I'd get home, they would just have a different Godzilla movie every day. And I remember my favorite one was the one, and I bought it when they started releasing it on DVD. The one where it's that little kid and he has that computer that can take him to Monster Island. Do you remember that one?
Oh, yeah.
That was my favorite one. And I remember that was always on Wednesday of that Godzilla week. So I was like, I could not wait till that thing came out. And I remember the Monday and Tuesday, I'm like, okay, yeah, these are great, but wait, where's the money one? And
I always liked the one where had the little ladies.
Oh, Mothra. Yeah, Mothra had the little lady.
That was Mothra. They had the little tiny ladies.
Right.
That was cool.
Yeah, see that yeah, so that whole thing. I swear to God, if they ever came out with a box set of like every one of them, I would be like, literally, I would have to, I think, lock my wallet somewhere so I could not access it because I don't know how I would not be able to purchase that. And that's probably like you're talking about like, what, 60 films now at this point?
Who knows? I would love to. I need to go look that up. How many actual Godzilla films are there?
Yeah,
that would be neat to look
I mean,
at.
I love more. I have some on Blu-ray and DVD. Just the ones that I picked up in passing and stuff. And one of these days, I just need to do like a marathon of all those because I loved
cool.
everything Godzilla, even the one that everyone panned with Matthew Broderick and stuff. And although there were parts in there that just drove me insane because it was so ridiculous, I still loved it because I just love Godzilla so much. And I actually own that famous Godzilla toy, although it's missing its hand that you could shoot off. Remember that? You remember that one where it's like a Godzilla and you put the thing and this little flaming tongue would come out and everything? It was part of that like Shogun series of you got Godzilla and the two robots. Well, I had that Godzilla and I still have it, except I lost a hand. But I see they sell the hand, believe it or not, on eBay. It was like $60 for the hand. I'm like, I think he'll go handless. I'll make him Luke from Empire Strikes Back cosplay or something. Yeah, but
now this next one sounds like something I would really want to see. It's called One Dark Night. It's from 1982. And a young girl, as part of an initiation into a club called the Sisters, must spend the night in a mausoleum. I like the premise of that. I think it sounds cool.
And anything with sisters in it is always kind of cool. Like that movie, The Sisters, and the two twins in The Shining. So something about it. And there's that like VR horror game, like Sisters. So yeah, it's something with sisters. They always do. They have some kind of It's so funny where they take these things and make them horror staples, and they're not scary in real life, but they make them scary. So it's kind of funny.
Yeah, like nuns aren't scary in real life.
No, but in the horror movies, you think they're the most vile things on the planet.
Yeah. The Good Son, 1993, Macaulay Culkin. You remember this one?
I do. I don't think I've actually sat through it all, but I know it.
Yeah, Macaulay Culkin was evil, or it's been a while since I've seen that one, but
actually,
remember he was.
I may have seen it.
That was post Home Alone,
right?
Obviously, but that was kind of an interesting one when I saw it on the list. I was like, oh yeah, I remember that from way back in the day.
Yeah,
and then finally we have another found footage alien. I know we had talked about the Gracefield incident last week.
Right, and I'm looking at this, and this one, there's another one about the same phenomenon that's on Amazon right now.
Yeah, there was a couple. It seems like this is the time for found footage UFO stuff.
Yeah, right, and this one specifically, this event.
Yeah. This is about the famous Phoenix Lights UFO sighting. But this is a fictional found footage film where they basically find footage from what happened to these three teenagers who disappeared that night, searching for the Phoenix Light.
It basically sounds like the Phoenix Light Project.
Yeah, basically. But I still kind of want to see it because, and I was trying to find a way to, this might be a perfect opportunity to talk about this, but I've been watching this really terrible documentary on Netflix because I love watching really bad it's like supernatural documentaries. It's one of my things. Like if it's like about like the Bigfoot encounter or something like that.
Oh my
like,
god, Amazon's got all those right now too.
Yeah, but I just love those, especially if they're supposed to be nonfiction.
Oh,
I love them even more.
Oh, like the Willow Creek. That was.
Yeah. So this one was on Netflix. It's called Extraordinary: The Stan Romanek Story, and this is that dude.
It's like our friend Steve Romanchuk.
Yeah, well, this guy is the guy that claimed, I don't know if you remember a few years back, but he claimed to have caught an alien on video peeking into his window. And he held like this big press conference, and then like he shows the footage, and it looks, I mean, I don't know what to say. It just looks like somebody held up a alien mask in front of a window is what it looks
probably
like.
was.
There's like some slight puppetry, like it looks like you might can make out the eyes blink or something. But what I didn't realize when I started watching this was that this guy claims to have been abducted numerous times, that he's been like assaulted by government people. He's got an alien child hybrid that like calls him on the phone. He's got
and he's got one step over, because all I hear is parents complaining that children don't call. So I guess he should be happy about that.
Especially ones that live so far away.
I know. My mom, I live like an hour away from her, and she gets mad when I don't call. So there you go.
But this guy has like this whole string of unbelievable things that he says has happened to him, and he's got all this evidence, quote unquote, to prove it. And then this documentary shows the video of the alien peeking in the window. It even has a video of an alien like peeking around a doorway and then like leaving. And I don't know what you believe out there. This guy, of whether he's telling the truth or not. Like, I think it's complete BS. But I love that. I've been completely enthralled with this documentary.
I gotta see this now.
He comes off. I mean, I will say he comes off as a perfectly normal, truth-telling guy. Like, he doesn't sound shifty at all. I mean, if I didn't know anything else about him, had not seen any videos, and I heard him talking, like, I'm like, this guy kind of seems on the level. I mean, just seems like a normal guy. But I don't know. It's too much.
I gotta see this now.
It's too much. So yeah, it's called Extraordinary: The Stan Romanek Story. It's on Netflix. It's something to see.
I think you gotta put that in the rundown.
I don't know what to tell you. Yeah.
I mean, not the rundown. The show notes. You need to put that in there so everyone can enjoy that with you.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a character. We only had one theatrical release for this Friday, and it's called "It Stains the Sands Red," and it's another zombie movie, which immediately turned me off because I'm like, even though we did the George Romero episode last week, I got really burned by It Comes at Night.
Oh.
And when I see these modern like zombie movies, I'm instantly like, eh. But this one is getting good reviews. And it's about a woman from Las Vegas who basically finds herself stranded alone in the desert with a single zombie chasing her.
Really?
So okay, that's a neat premise.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, like, he's got to be like, it must be a very determined zombie if one of them can still be chasing her this whole time.
And she must be in bad shape that she can't take out one zombie.
Yeah, like, how like hard is it to lose? And the fact that, like, okay, like, you know, she's in Las Vegas, right? I mean, half the people walking around looking like zombies anyway after too much of drinking and at a casino. She could have easily blended in as one of them, and he would have lost her. She would have lost him right there.
Yeah. So I don't know. It like I said, the reviews are pretty good. So I don't want to trash it, but I'm just kind of burned out on the zombie thing right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely give it a look if it's on when it comes on, when it comes on Netflix or Shudder or something, or I'll probably end up purchasing it because now that we've talked about it, it's ingrained in my head, and I'll feel like I have to get it when it comes out.
Yeah. All right, so now to our feature presentation, A Nightmare on Elm Street, 1984, came out in November of 1984, directed by Wes Craven.
That's funny.
Written by Wes Craven.
That you said that, November. I don't think I've ever realized it came out in November, like so close where it could have came out for the Halloween season, and yet it came out in November. That's interesting.
Yep, it was a budget of $1.8 million, and it made almost all of that back on opening weekend. It pulled in 1.2 and ended up grossing $26 million. Over the course of its run. So a very successful movie for the 80s. And arguably one of the one of the best horror movies to come out of the 80s, period.
Oh.
It's a classic.
No doubt.
Starring Heather Langenkamp, who's awesome. Johnny Depp in his first starring role, which was pretty cool to see. And, of course, the great Robert Englund as Freddy.
Yes. Which at the time was, we'll get into this a little, but he is definitely not the, Freddy. It's so funny if you haven't seen it in a while and then you watch this and you're used to the more comical Freddy from the later films. This one comes as a little bit of a little different. He's much more grittier and basic in this at some level.
Yeah, and if you've only experienced the late 80s Freddy, let's say,
yeah.
and Freddy from the one-liners and stuff, you would be surprised at how scary this movie is.
Yeah,
like it's actually genuinely scary.
And you wrote this down on there. The part that used to freak me out when I was a kid was when he was like running. He was walking down the alley with the long arms.
And which sounds on paper sounds so stupid.
It does, but was that, and it was filmed so dark and lit so you could tell I think they must have lit that with the natural light. It seemed like it just got this gritty feel to it, and you just see him walking, and if you think of it on premise, right? He literally, it's he doesn't look like an intimidating fellow per se until you see the claw. If you see him in from a distance, right? This is like an old hobo with a hat. But so you're like, I'm gonna just run around him, and then think about it. He literally just makes his arms extend to the point of where you can't get around him now. It's it's really really spooky looking.
Yeah, and I was trying to. Obviously I rewatch every movie before we cover it, and I've seen Nightmare on Elm Street many, many, many times. So when I went back through to watch it this time, I was specifically looking at talking points, because when you watch a movie for pleasure and you watch a movie for something like the podcast, you're looking at it in two totally different ways, right, typically. So I was looking at it with a very critical eye, and I was just blown away by how good this movie is. And I as many times as I've seen it, until I was really covering it for this podcast to talk about it, I really genuinely didn't appreciate how well put together it is. Almost every scene in this movie is iconic.
Yeah, and the performances are top notch, and when you think about it, and at that point it's relatively unknowns. I mean, obviously, John Saxon has been in stuff before, but if the main Heather Langenkamp, I think she may have been in something before, right? I mean, but nothing that anyone would probably know her from. I think Amanda Weiss, I don't know how you pronounce her name. I think she was in some stuff before that. I think, yeah, but other than that, she may have been one of the more recognizable faces from initially. But no, actually, was Johnny Depp on TV at that point?
Nope, that was still 3 years in the future. This was his very, very first role.
Oh, okay. So see, even him, who now it's and it's actually, he looks so young in that he's actually not super, super recognizable at first, unless, I mean, obviously, we've known him that he's in there, so we know who he is at that point. But yeah, someone I think Julie, I said, do you realize who that is? And she looked and it took her a couple seconds and says, oh, wait, is that Johnny Depp?
Yeah, I did the same with Olivia, and she was sat there and stared for a minute. She finally got it, but now I actually knew Heather Langenkamp before I saw Nightmare on Elm Street, because she was in Just the 10 of Us TV series sitcom in 1988.
Oh, so you saw it first. Oh, okay. See, I saw that first. I saw Nightmare on Elm Street first, so I recognized her in Just the 10 of Us as the girl from Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah, so I was the exact opposite, because I was like, oh, that's the girl from Just the 10 of Us. Because I didn't see Nightmare on Elm Street until VHS rentals started hitting. I was a little bit older. Probably not, didn't miss it by much, but
yeah, I think I saw it on cable, right when it came out, after a year after its release, so.
Yeah, I was looking through her IMDb. She was actually on Growing Pains for a little while there, too.
Oh, really?
Which is interesting. Yep. But Nightmare on Elm Street was part of that. When we talked about the Friday the 13th series, it was all in that same golden I don't know if it was summer at the time, that golden year where my mom just let us rent every horror movie from this little local video store. And so we had gone through Friday the 13th, and we also at the same time, and I don't remember if we did them sequentially or if we kind of mixed them up here and there. But at some point, I was watching the Nightmare on Elm Street series the same time I was watching the Friday the 13th series. And so that's when I first saw this.
Yeah. And think about it, Friday the 13th got a 4-year head start on this franchise. And at one point, they kind of became neck and neck. Mm-hmm. You know, and you always have, I mean, I wouldn't say you have the fandom wars of like, you know, Friday the 13th versus Freddy, as you had Star Wars versus Star Trek. You know, personally, I'm on the I mean, I love Star Wars more, but to me, I love Star Trek too, so I don't really see the big deal why you have to pick one. But and I love both of these too. I mean, I think I liked Friday the 13th better, but you know, I have, you know, the same thing is like I wouldn't put myself, no pun intended, in one camp or another, you know.
Oh man. Well, after I watched this movie, I was like, I was sitting there thinking, how would I compare this to the other big franchises in terms of the first movie? And I love Halloween so much that it's really hard for me to say it's really hard for me to say Nightmare on Elm Street is the better movie over Halloween. That's really hard for me to say because my love for Halloween is so deep. But arguably in terms of plot and the characters and everything, it's a lot more sophisticated than Halloween. And I think it's certainly a better movie than the original Friday the 13th.
Right.
I'll go out on a limb and say that. Like, I think it's definitely the better movie.
Yeah, I think it. Yeah, I mean, as a franchise whole, I'd give the edge to Friday the 13th, as we discussed last time. But yeah, as the first movie goes, yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street has got. I mean, just because it was so, there was a lot of just stuff that you hadn't seen before that was done in that movie. Some of the effects were just so, and it was fun. They were done practically. And kind of uniquely at the time, and they were so visually iconic that then you realize that wow, that's how they did it. I mean, there's no really CG in that movie at all. I mean, I don't think it was even around. So, and funny, you said it too when we were watching the how the remake kind of mimicked some scenes and lines from the original, and like. It's amazing. Like Tim had a point. He said, he goes, look how the one scene where Freddy's head comes out of the wall over Nancy's laying in the bed, right? The practical effect looked better than the CG one, which should have given it, in theory should have been much better. But no, the practical effect, and I agreed with Tim, it looks better to see it done that way, where they literally took a piece of whatever, like a rubber or cellophane, whatever they used, and had him literally push his head through the hole in the wall.
Yeah, it looked 10 times better. And I had decided to make a list of the best kills in the first movie, right? So, and I realized every kill is good.
Yeah, there's not one bad one.
I don't know there is a best one. They're all classics. So let's run through some of those. You have the one we just mentioned, the long-armed Freddy.
Right.
That's an iconic scene. You have the glove coming up in the bathtub.
Oh my god! Right? Yeah.
How many times has that been mimicked in other movies?
Oh yeah, a lot. And even in the remake, they mimicked it.
Yeah, I mean they even did it in the and it still didn't even look as good in the remake, honestly. And all it was a glove coming out of the water, and they even couldn't get that.
Yeah,
right.
I mean it just yeah.
But I mean, how many times have we seen the girl in the bathtub and there's like a snake in there or something in there with her? I mean, that's been mimicked tons of times.
Right.
That's iconic. It was even on the. I've seen it used as. I don't know about box art, but it's been used in posters and everything else. You have the girl being dragged across the ceiling,
right? Which
was incredible,
right? And it's funny. I was reading a thing on it. They kind of used the way they made that scene. It was the same way with what we'll get to with Johnny Depp's death. It was the same type of effect. The room that upside down rotating room, as opposed to like using.
And it looks it's like dancing on the ceiling, Lionel Richie.
It does. Like
it's the same idea.
Like you could easily put that as the soundtrack to that scene, and you'd say, "Wow, it's still cool." But
dying on the
Yeah.
ceiling. Anyway,
Kickstarter. We'll get Lionel Richie sings the horror classics, you know.
Oh man, okay, but yeah, I mean, it looks really good. It looks really good. Like, it's astounding for the time. That effect was really cool.
Yeah, and there's some shocking stuff that you know that just come out of nowhere that is total like, you know, just to like kind of for shock and creep out effects, like when Freddy stands there and he just cuts his own fingers off, you know, and it's like just what was the purpose other than to make, you know, the freak out oh my god, wait, Tina, right? Yeah, Tina at the time, and at the audience at the same time. You know, it's like, oh, God, I used to cringe at that because, you know, it's like, ooh, you know. It's
well, then you got like we mentioned, the Freddy coming out of the wall. Another iconic scene that's been used in countless posters and everything. Right. You have the Johnny Depp being sucked into the bed and erupting in a fountain of blood.
Yeah, oh, and then
that's been seen.
Yeah, and don't forget the where the dead friend comes back and talks to her, you know, and she's getting dragged in the hall, and the the body bag.
The girl in the body bag was super scary. That scene still scares me. Yeah. Now I will say the remake scene of that was done pretty well.
Actually, you're right. That one was probably one of the few that they hit pretty well. And I mean, even though I still prefer the original version to that basically maybe that character just was done right, because when she was getting dragged, I kind of liked the way they did that too. It was a little more violent. She was getting thrown kind of on the wall. So it was kind of cool. It was like that added like roughness to it, like, you know, and I think what I think worked about it, because I expected it to be exactly like mirror for mirror shot of the way they did it in the original, and the fact that then they kind of added to it of her getting literally thrown around a little more, I was like, okay, that one works.
Yeah. That's one scene that I won't say they improved on it, but they did a good job, like paying respect to it. So then you have the classic tongue coming out of the phone.
Oh god, yeah, that was
Freddy's tongue coming out of the phone.
All I know is I wish I would have been able to see that movie in the theater, because I can imagine theatrically that was probably a scene that just got like screams, a great crowd reaction, because it's so funny.
And then the mom being pulled through the door at the end, which you can argue if it whether it's kind of cheesy or whatever, because it obviously looks like some kind of inflatable thing. Yeah. They're pulling through the door. But man, that scared the crap out of me when I was younger, when I first saw this movie. I would put it right up there with the ending of Friday the 13th as far as jump scares for me, like ending climactic scares. That one was right up there with me, with Friday the 13th for me.
Yeah, and did you know, I when I was doing some research for, you know, like I always tend to look for trivia and stuff, and one of the cool things they said is that was there were actually like a multiple ending shot for that, and it was Robert Englund. Wes Craven did not want that as the ending. His original ending was he wanted them to just drive off happy and having basically the whole movie be one long nightmare. And everything was back to normal at the end. But Robert Shea he said, no. He goes, I want you to have some kind of and this could have been directly influenced from the same reason what you just mentioned, that, you know, the Friday the 13th kind of jumps in. He wanted something to be more of like a shock ending that could set up a sequel. So, you know, obviously producer, like that's what they're thinking of. You know, Wes Craven's like, I just want to do my good movie and my good story. What producers are thinking, all right, how do we get the most out of this, and how do we get more money out of it? So let's figure out a sequel. So they shot one where literally Freddy was driving the car on the way out. So there was no, but instead they have this mishmash, and at some level it's a little bit ambiguous. What the heck happened? Like, what is the dream? What is reality?
The whole dream thing is such a brilliant concept for a movie like this, because if you think about a normal slasher movie, there's only so many ways you can figure out how to kill somebody realistically. Right. And this just opened up so many not physically possible ideas, like, of course, like Tina being dragged across the ceiling and getting sucked into a bed or whatever. They pretty much had free reign to do whatever we wanted to, because it was a dream world.
Right.
So you could literally do whatever you wanted. And you have the added bonus of your villain being stuck behind the dreams. So you have a safe harbor for these kids where they're not being stalked as long as they're awake, right? So it was kind of just a brilliant concept all around because it gave them so many story avenues to explore.
Right, and to go one more on this on that kind of lead off of that. When you think about it, it's like, what, how many times, what was so ingenious about this, I think, that made this such a scary film and a premise. So think about it. So everyone has nightmares. They've said it a million times. I think they've said that in the movie sometimes. They've even said, oh, everyone has nightmares, right? But the fact that, these nightmares became their reality at the same time. So, and like you said, their escape was to stay awake, but the biggest fear was their dreams. And the only way to stop them was to bring what scared the heck out of them into reality at the end.
Yeah.
To kill them. So think about that. At one point, they really don't have a safe haven in this. And so how do you, it's like, it's so, when you think about it, it's so frightening to think of that prospect where it's like, okay, I can't go to sleep because if I go to sleep, I'm going to die because Freddy's going to kill me. I can't stop him in the dream. He's too powerful. So the only way I can stop him is I bring him out. But when they bring him out, he's still got some powers, obviously. He's still got a supernatural element to him. So it's like, you're like, okay, the only way I can stop him is I'm going to bring him into reality. My greatest nightmare I'm bringing out right in front of me now into physical form. So it's like, it's ingenious. It's like, that is a truly frightening premise. And Wes Craven, I mean, obviously he's a master of this, and he just did it so perfectly, which is why I think this film it just hit so well and resonated still to this day. This is one of those films that still sits well now. Like it aged amazingly. Like you don't think you won't say, oh God, this thing is it didn't sit well anymore, and
yeah, there's no better contrast to that than to watch part 2,
right?
Because we'll get it. I don't want to get too far into that because we'll cover it when we do part 2 next week. But I was looking at. I mean, I literally watched 1 and 2 back to back.
I did
and
over like 2 nights.
The difference is, I mean, even though these are only a year apart in real life. Because the original came out in 84, part 2 came out the next year in 85. Even though they're only a year apart, they could not be more different in the way they've aged.
Yeah.
Nightmare on Elm Street still holds up completely. It does not feel like an 80s movie per se. It's a, like, intentionally, I'm sure, a dreamlike quality to it where it's a little bit timeless. And that's the reason it's aged so well. Then you get into part 2, and it is full blown 1985, and it is so dated.
Yeah, and it I mean, like I said, I don't want to go too much into it either, but it drags on, and it just feels like you're like, I don't know. We'll get into it. Like I said, I don't want to get into it, but and I was gonna say too about the original too. I don't know if you watch this. I watched it on Blu-ray. And visually, it's the Blu-ray version of it is fantastic. It's like, especially that opening sequence where Tina is walking around and she's like in her nightgown, and that's like really the only thing lit. It's so clear. It's amazing to think that was a movie from 1984. It's so clear on the Blu-ray. And it's amazing. It's like you can see the shadow of her body in the nightgown she's wearing, and it's just lit everything the way you want. You were like, wow, this must have been exactly how he intended to have this. I was blown away when I saw it again when I first got the Blu-ray to see the difference. So I knew going in now like how I was going to get such a clear version of it, but it's still, again, I'm like, wow, this is amazing. This is from 1984 and it looks so good.
Yeah, and it holds up so much better than a lot of we watch a lot of the early 80s movies for this podcast,
right? And
it just holds up so much better than a lot of those do.
Yeah, I mean that's a tribute to the way this movie was just the production value on this film. It was sometimes I think it's everything in the world of CG now, but I tell you, give me a good old practical effect any day, and as long as it's done well, as far as I'm concerned, I prefer it better.
Let's talk about some of the performances. Of course, we talked about Heather Langenkamp, who was great. I mentioned in the rundown how she really does, even though she was around 19 or 20 at the time that this came out, she does feel like an authentic teenager.
Oh, she does. Yeah,
she has a very young quality, which actually when she appeared in part 3, they kind of do some stuff to try to make her look a little older. And to me, she still seemed like a kid.
Yeah, they basically just tried to like age her hair.
Yeah, they tried to like age her hair, but she still looks so baby faced and young that it was kind of comical.
Almost to the point of where it's kind of creepy when she's out on the date with the guy at the dinner.
Yeah, you're right. Because I could not buy her as an older.
No, and I'm
woman.
just like, stop hitting on her. She's like 16. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. But it wasn't.
So yeah, she does a good job. Johnny Depp. I always enjoy watching these famous actors before they were famous to see. Can I see the glimpse of genius that will come?
Right. And think about it. It's like there's another like kind of nod to Friday the 13th. You had Kevin Bacon, who became obviously a legendary actor, and you got Johnny Depp, who's been it's like, I mean, I know so many, that's like such a cliche at some level, like, oh yeah, they first started off in a cheesy horror movie and look what they did. But, I mean, they happen to be in some great horror movies, to get their career launched.
And then you had the Thompson parents, of course. John Saxon played Lieutenant Thompson, who's terrific.
Oh my God. You know what? It's like I don't know much of his other stuff that he did. I mean, I'm sure I've seen him in a billion things. I just know he's been in some stuff. But something about his performance in that adds like a whole level of credibility to the movie. And like I said, I don't think I've seen him in anything. But when I first saw that, I don't think I saw that. But you just saw anything he was in before that. But you just get this feeling like, wow, they got this legit guy in this movie. I don't know, is that weird but
yeah, well, he had a lot of TV credits. I mean, big TV credits up until the time. He was on Fantasy Island, he was on Magnum PI, Scarecrow and Mrs. King, Hardcastle and McCormick.
Oh, so he's like on the oh my God, like the CBS classics.
Right. Yeah, he was he had an appearance on Hawaii 5-0.
Oh my God, he ran the gamut.
Yeah, extensive TV credits. So this guy was a pro. Yeah. Even by the time when he did this in '84, I was just looking through IMDb. He had been acting since the 50s.
Oh my God.
As obviously as kid roles.
Yeah.
But so this guy was a seasoned professional,
and you could tell without knowing that. Like I said, like I didn't know. I could just assume that this guy was in like a big deal. Like he's been in a ton of stuff. Seeing him in that role because he just added this like level of professionalism that was like a step up from the kids, which was so good because all the kid actors felt like teenagers, like you said, especially like Heather Langenkamp, and so there was definitely and you could tell, okay, this guy is a good parental figure, and he's just like he's dead on in it, so it made it like I think it just they seemed like they struck gold with every piece that they tried to do this film, from the cinematography, the writing, the directing, the acting, that it's like it was like you just how could you you can't really like praise this film enough, in my opinion.
Yeah, and then I'm probably going to murder this pronunciation of Ronnie Blackley, who was the
mom. Yeah.
And she came to fame in Nashville from 1975. Robert Altman.
Oh, right.
Famous classic.
Yeah.
Which is where I recognized her from. She doesn't really have a lot of roles, but she's instantly recognizable. And she was actually in Return to Salem's Lot in '87.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, okay.
So she did end up doing another horror movie after all. But she's so she's great. So you have a good. I mean, even the supporting cast is really, really good. And like a lot of these movies that become classics, you look back on them and you see that it was a combination of the right people, of really talented actors, really talented director, really talented writer, all coming together at once to make something that could have been just mediocre and completely forgotten.
Right.
In the hands of a lesser cast or a lesser writer or a lesser director, but it just happened like all the stars aligned, and this is what you got out of it.
Right, and there must have been some blessings, because I know, like, I was reading something where it was like the story and stuff was being shopped around for years, apparently, before they decided to go ahead with it. So it's like, I guess, you know, like you said, like I think you mentioned it before where you said on paper, like with Freddy's arm. So, I mean, you read this on paper, it probably sounds like, oh, come on, that's a ridiculous premise. That movie's never going to make. But you know what? I'm glad it was, I guess, New Line Cinema, you know, that was their first feature film that they actually released theatrically. I think there was another horror film they did that went straight to video.
This film basically put New Line on the
map. Right.
I mean, for years, I remember for years, anytime I saw the New Line logo, I instantly thought Nightmare on Elm Street.
Right.
It didn't matter what the movie was.
And remember, it had that it had that old school, like really like computer generated 70s like font New Line logo, where it said it like New Line Cinema Presents in the beginning, you know, and it's like, so it's like, I mean, thank God the visionary, I guess, Bob Shea there to say, hey, I'm going to give this movie a chance and look at what it did. I mean, and yeah, like you said, it made New Line Cinema.
Well, there's a saying that New Line Cinema is the house that Freddy built.
Yeah, just like the Jaws Revenge was the house that Michael Caine built. So,
yeah. Yeah, there's actually a documentary called The House That Freddy Built that talks about how the Elm Street franchise built New Line Cinema.
Oh, that's cool.
Pretty interesting. I think I watched it years ago when it came out. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm actually in the middle of the, I know maybe like about 40 minutes into it. I think it's like close to 4 hours. The Never Sleep Again documentary that happens to be on, am I watching it on Shudder? I think it's on Shudder. Right now, I don't know, you know, because I got so many streaming services that I go for horror now. The big three, Amazon, Netflix, and Shudder. Yeah. So I'm not sure which one it is. I believe it's Shudder that has the Never Sleep Again documentary on, which is really good.
I need to watch that, and I need to watch the Crystal Lake one. But it's like those are huge documentaries, and I really wanted to tackle those at a time where I really had the time to sit down and thoroughly go through them. Like, I didn't want to just kind of half-ass those.
Yeah, and I want to say I watched Never Sleep Again a while ago. I think maybe when it first came out, it was on Netflix. I think I watched it on that. And the Crystal Lake one, that's like a massive one. I think that's like 8 hours or something. It's crazy, and it's so in-depth, and it's fantastic. It's like every Friday the 13th person's dream documentary. I mean, they go all out on it. And this is like that version of it. It's just, I think it's half the strength, but it's like, you know, it's like when you try and cover such a legendary film and a series, I'm glad they didn't like just kind of half-ass it and make it like cram it into an hour and a half. No, they let them get every interview. I mean, fans like us love that stuff. We'll eat it up, you know? Mm-hmm. So it's like, hey, the more the merrier. I don't care if I got to sit through it in 7 sittings to see it. I'll see it, you know? I'll do it.
Yeah, that's really cool. They made such great documentaries for these two franchises, which are the two of the biggest horror franchises that have ever come out, period.
Yeah.
But we are going to save the rest of the franchise for part 2, and we have a lot to talk about with those because those films are so varied and in both quality and story wise.
Right.
It's very like this film is very unique compared to the other slashers, compared to Friday the 13th and compared to Halloween. They're really interesting the way the character developed in a way that Jason and Michael Myers never did.
Right.
It's just a complete evolution of Freddy as a character. And we'll go into that more as we talk through each film in the series, but we'll save that for part 2. Also in part 2, we'll have our trivia question and our beer pairing, so you'll have to stay tuned for those. But we knew this was going to be a long episode, so we decided to go ahead and split it up to begin with, which I think is the right call.
Yeah,
just like those documentaries we mentioned, I think it's the right call to give these movies and these characters the coverage they deserve.
Right. I mean, especially because, you know, it's movies like this and it's series like this that really, like, you know, stoke the flames of our, no pun intended again, of our horror fandom. So you know, which is why we wanted to even do this kind of a series, because yeah, sure, we could have done it one movie at a time. But, I mean, first of all, I find it hard. If I'm watching Nightmare on Elm Street 1, I'm immediately going to want to watch the rest of the series. Regardless of how good or bad some of the installments are, I'm still going to want to do it. Same with Friday the 13th, same with Halloween, and all those things. So, it makes sense to do it this way rather than literally just over the course of the podcast, let's go through these movies individually. Because one, there's such a vast library of horror films out there that to do one of a film series, these type of film series, it just doesn't do it justice because you got to kind of do them on a whole. But I think I like the style that we pick where we do the original as kind of like the first part. And then, because that's obviously the establishing spot of them all, and then to do in the second part to do the remainder of it, which this one, even I gotta tell you, even though this is gonna be the second half of this thing, and there's the second part of this series is gonna probably be pretty long, just because, like Tim was saying, it's like each film, we were actually talking before we started to record, how each film does vary enough to where we can't just kind of go through them like we did with Friday the 13th. We gotta have to actually touch on a lot, the films individually a little more than we did in the last one.
Yeah, but I think it should be a lot of fun. I'm really, really looking forward to recording next week.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. I mean, I look forward to every week recording, but this one it's gonna be fun, and Tim definitely had made more show notes than I've ever seen. Usually I'm the one writing down on paper and throwing it in there, but Tim literally is I had to scroll down about 6 times to get to the bottom of this rundown to see everything on here.
Yeah, I had a lot of thoughts about this series, and like I said, this is not my favorite of the big horror franchises. I put it behind both Friday the 13th and Halloween in terms of what I consider my favorites, but that doesn't mean I didn't thoroughly enjoy them and really had a ball going through and taking notes on them, and I think that'll show when we debut part 2 how much love we have for these movies, even the bad ones.
Right,
there's a certain amount of love there.
Well, and I think one of the notes to it that really play, I think because the first one was just so incredible that it basically the love for that one extends through the rest of the sequels, even the bad ones. It's
yeah. And it really, who are we kidding? It's love for Freddy.
Yeah,
is what it all boils down to.
It is, and it's and I think we'll touch on this again, but just as a little preview, that's and nothing against Jack Earl Haley, but that is why I think the sequel didn't work. The remake didn't work as well because it was not Robert Englund as Freddy, which you grew to love, and he embodied the character in a certain way that you could put anybody there, and if it's not him, it's just not going to be the same. And if you notice real quick, we did not mention his performance, how good it was in the first one, because if you think about it, his character, as good as he was, really wasn't a character to that thing. I mean, he had less than 7 minutes of screen time, if you add it all up, in that film.
Oh yeah, that's amazing.
Which shows how good that movie was, that you have the main villain in it for less than 7 minutes of an hour and a half film, and yet he was still as truly terrifying and amazing in it as he was.
I'm glad you brought that up because that's a major oversight. I mean, he is Freddy, like that. He embodied that character to the point that nobody will ever be able to play that character.
Right.
And do it any sort of justice.
Right. And we'll get to it. Well, I mean, we'll obviously get to more of that. I knew we would get to it in the second half of this, but I didn't want to, I felt remiss if we didn't at least mention it in the first half.
So if you have not seen Nightmare on Elm Street, number 1, go watch it.
What are you waiting for?
Stop. What are you doing?
Yeah.
We're listening to a horror podcast. But number 2, if you have not watched it in a while, I would strongly encourage you to go back and watch it again and just pick up on what a brilliant film it is. It's really, really good, and it's still really scary for what it is.
Yeah.
I find myself creeped out by it every time I watch it, and I've seen it a dozen times. So, yeah, go definitely go watch it again, and then listen to part 2 and decide which of the sequels you want to actually watch.
Yeah. You may want to skip this. I mean, I wouldn't.
You may
want
to skip around,
but yeah, I mean, in reality, if you haven't seen them all, you watch them all anyway. Just I know there'll be some that you'll be like, oh.
All right, guys. So we'll see you back here next week for part 2 of Freddy Krueger.
And in the meantime, don't fall asleep.